Hey there, and welcome to the Girl Means Business podcast, the show that's all about helping photographers just like you build a thriving business without sacrificing your sanity. I'm your host, Kendra Swalls, a former teacher turned full-time photographer and marketing coach, here to fill your earbuds each week with practical tips, real-life stories, and a whole lot of encouragement. So if you're ready to dive in, let's get to it because this girl means business. Hey friends, welcome back to the Girl Means Business podcast. This week we have a really special episode because I haven't done one of these in a while, and that is an interview episode. So today I'm bringing in an old friend of mine, Kelli with Kelli Michelle Creative Co., and we are talking all about Pinterest. Now, really funny story. So before we get into the topic of Pinterest, Kelli and I have known each other for a long, long time. We actually grew up together-ish. So her older sister and I were a year apart in age and grade, and we grew up going to the same church and hung out in the same friend group. And so I knew Kelli through the association of her sister, her older sister, Amber. And I've just kind of followed her story and her journey on social media, as we all do. One of the benefits of social media, one of the plus sides of social media, is getting to stay in touch with people that you may not normally stay in touch with. And really, there's no reason that Kelli and I should have really reconnected had it not been for social media. We live in the same state, but obviously Texas is huge. She's in the Austin area. I'm in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Her parents don't live in the same hometown anymore. My parents don't live in the same hometown anymore. And so there's very little crossover as adults that we would have really crossed paths. So being able to stay in touch with her through social media is actually what led me to working with her, because I kind of followed her journey, and she'll tell her story in our interview, but her journey from going from a floral design business to now working as a Pinterest and blog manager for wedding creatives and other creative business owners. And so when I saw that this is what she was starting to do, and I had been trying to get Pinterest kind of on my own, working in my business, and I was struggling to stay consistent. I was struggling to keep up with all the things. And really, anytime you have to take the time to learn the ins and outs of a new platform. And I am someone who I love to know the ins and outs of things. Like if I'm going to learn how to do something, I want to learn how to really learn to do it. Like I want to know why things work this way, or what's the best strategy for this, or why should I be doing this versus this? And I just never really took the time to do that with Pinterest. So I knew I could trust that Kelli had the insider knowledge. She had dedicated her time to learning this platform. And so I handed over my Pinterest account. I said, here, take it, do what you need to with it because it's a mess, clean it all up, fix it. And then she's been consistently pinning content to my Pinterest account for about 7 months. And I share in the interview some of my results from working with her. I'm not going to spoil it. You have to listen to our conversation around it. But I've been incredibly impressed with what she has been able to do. And so when I asked her to very kindly come on and do her first ever podcast interview here on the Girl Means Business podcast, I was so excited. She said yes. So she is here to share with us all of her knowledge about Pinterest and some of the things that you can start doing right now today to get your Pinterest accounts up and running and working for your business. It's such an incredible evergreen platform that can help you to drive traffic to your website, your blogs, even your social accounts long after that content is brand new. And so I think it's such a great place for photographers to be investing their marketing time and energy. All right, guys. So here it is, my conversation with Kelli. And if you're interested in learning more about Kelli or what she offers, you can find all those links down in the show notes. I hope you enjoy our conversation about Pinterest. Hey guys, and welcome Kelli with Kelli Michelle Creative Co. here today to talk all about Pinterest. I am really, really excited to dive into this topic today. But before we get into that, Kelli, will you share with us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and how you got into doing Pinterest?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. I am super excited to do this with you. So how I landed on doing Pinterest is I'll give you a little bit of a backstory. So I went to school at A&M, majored in horticulture, got a minor in business. I always knew that I wanted to have my own wedding floral design studio. So I did that here in the Austin area for 5 years. I closed it down right before 2020, which I'm glad that I did because I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't. But after that, I just kind of bopped around doing different things. I have always been in the wedding industry. I've been in the industry for about 20 years now, which is crazy to say. Um, but I wanted something different. Being an entrepreneur, that's not a voice that you can easily silence. And at the time, I was working at a studio here in Austin, and my husband had just become a firefighter, which kind of changed my priorities a little bit. I wanted a job and a career where I could be in control of my schedule. I could be present when he's home because of his job.
Yeah.
I wanted to be there for him and just have more freedom and also lower stress just for my health. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I knew I needed to do something. So I started thinking about what I enjoyed doing at work that was something that I would get lost doing. I would lose track of time doing, and Pinterest and blogging both popped into my mind. And I was like, I wonder if that's something that people actually hire people to do. So I looked it up, and sure enough, it was. So over the summer last year, I took some courses just to kind of help me learn the ropes a little bit and brush up on my Pinterest skills and help me prepare to do that before I started my business. So in September of last year, I bought my LLC. And then I waited a couple of months before I let anybody know what I was doing. And I quietly launched my business in November of 24, and I left my full-time job a couple months later, and I have not looked back.
That's amazing. I love it. So one of the reasons on the show I love asking people kind of about their journey is because I think it's so interesting that to hear how like nothing is really linear. Like everything kind of zigs and zags, and you have these highs and these lows, and the direction you thought you were going to go was one way, and then it's brought you to something else. I also love what you said about that thought process of what do you lose track of time doing? Because I think that's something that people, if you're looking at like so specifically for photographers, because that's who listens to a lot of this is, I talk a lot about kind of niching down into certain genres and really focusing on certain genres. And that's a question I typically ask is like, what is something that you could spend all your time learning about and getting lost in and that's super exciting for you? Because that's the thing that you're going to get the most out of. So I love that that was kind of the approach you took into narrowing down to this. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
So Pinterest for me has always been one of those like to-do list items. It was always something that was like, I feel like this could be something really beneficial, but I don't know. I don't feel comfortable enough in that space to feel like I have the knowledge to really make it work the way it should. And I've tried multiple times. I've had, downloaded Tailwind and I would upload pins to it occasionally, and then I'd forget for 4 or 5 months. Then I'd go back and I'd upload another couple months. And I just never really kind of had the consistency behind it. And then the more I kind of heard other people talking about it, and for me, a big draw is I am really trying to move away from social media. I talk a lot about on the podcast my hatred of social media and my dislike of having to use it. And I teach a lot about how to grow your business off of social media. And I think Pinterest kind of gets lumped in with that, but it's really not a social media platform.
Right.
And so I liked that aspect of it as well. And so when I saw that you were doing this and that you were working kind of, even though I'm not in the wedding space, I had already reached out to you and been like, will you help me?
Yes.
And it's been amazing. So that's why I was like, I want to bring you on to share your expertise and your knowledge with my audience, because if I'm seeing the benefits of this already, I think it could be really beneficial for other people as well. So I appreciate you sharing your story and your time.
Yeah, of course.
So kind of along that same line of, Pinterest isn't really a social media platform. Can you explain then, like, what do you consider Pinterest to be as far as like, if it's not really social media, but it's also not like a blogging site, like how would you describe it?
So I would best describe it as a visual search engine. It's the only platform out there where you can combine SEO and keywords and really pretty visuals to capture your audience's attention. And unlike social media, you don't have to worry about coming up with a catchy caption or anything like that. You really just need to focus on those keywords. So I would just describe it as that, a visual search engine, where you can combine the keywords plus the visuals together to get the results that you're trying to search for.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, since you're in this space, I get this a lot when I talk about blogging, which is, well, blogs are quote unquote dead. Like, who really reads blogs anymore? And I always push back and say, like, well, a ton of people. Like, I read blogs a lot, or if I'm looking for how to do something, well, a lot of times I'll go to a blog post, or there's lots of times that I still access them, and I may not always register that that's what it is that I'm looking for online or that I'm utilizing online. But that content is still being utilized. So the same thing I hear about like things like Pinterest is it still relevant? Like, do you still feel like it's something that, and this is more broader, not just photography related, but just in general, do you feel like it's still a relevant tool for small business owners to use?
Yeah, absolutely. Before I jump into that, I do want to address what you said about hearing that blogs may be dead. I have heard some people say that, but I can honestly say that's not true. With the clients I've worked with, there's one in particular that their top 3 drivers are from blogs that were written 2 years ago. So those still drive traffic to your site. Those are still very relevant. And as far as Pinterest being relevant, yes, a lot of people out there are getting tired of the algorithms on social media and trying to keep up with, you're supposed to post this many times a day and have this many hashtags, and the hashtags work and all that. So Pinterest is the one thing that has stayed steady over the course of the past several years. And it has consistently been in the top 3 website traffic drivers for every single one of my clients. A lot of them, it's their number 1 traffic driver. And as you know, you want more traffic to come to your website so they can learn about your services and inquire and hopefully end up working with you. So I would definitely say that it's still relevant for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I know. I agree. I completely agree. Okay, so let's talk about photography in general, or specifically, because we've kind of talked just in general about Pinterest and what it's good for and how it's utilized these days. So if I am a photographer and I'm thinking about kind of jumping into Pinterest, how could I utilize Pinterest as a photographer to get more clients in, like you kind of said, you're already like driving traffic to your site, but beyond that, like how can I utilize Pinterest? Because social media is very much the flashy, shiny thing. It's the instant gratification. It's, if I post this, I will see likes. If I post this, I will get comments. If, my clients see this, they'll share it, that kind of stuff. You get that instant gratification. And you've touched on a couple of things as far as like the longevity of it and stuff. But as a photographer, what are some things that you're seeing with Pinterest that could maybe be a benefit or a reason to kind of move not off of social media, but maybe adding Pinterest in as like an additional platform that you utilize?
Yeah, so I actually do have a photography client, and it's been working really well for her. As a photographer, you already have an advantage because you've already got all of your pictures that you need. You don't have to go hunt them down from anybody. So you've already got all of your awesome pictures, and really from there, it's just taking the time to sit down and be intentional with how you use Pinterest. Like I said, the keywords are super important. So you can even get creative, and instead of just having a picture as a pin, you can make a collage, maybe with some text overlay that's got keywords into it. Because really what you're on there for is to capture the user's attention and get them onto your site. And like I said, hopefully end up booking you. So I would say just getting really creative and intentional with how you're actually using that platform and what type of pins you're uploading, making sure you're using those keywords. And also, if you've got old blogs, you can totally link to those blogs from your pins. Like I said, I would just put some keyword text as an overlay on that image to help drive traffic to that particular article.
Yeah. And I know you have seen this even within my account, as I have older blogs on my account, my Pinterest account, that are still driving people to my site. And they're ones that are, I don't know, they're 5 or 6 years old, some of them even, but they still have that traffic, which is really helpful. And it doesn't have to be this like constant hamster wheel of creating new content. You can use what you already have.
Right.
Which I love. Anything that gets me like that evergreen, like kind of create it once and then let it do its thing multiple times is always going to be awesome.
Yeah.
So if I'm just brand new, like maybe I have a personal Pinterest account that I've used just, for planning birthday parties and house designs, things like that. What would you say is kind of the first step from like ground zero? I have nothing, but I want to start using Pinterest for my photography business. What's kind of the first things I need to do?
So first, I would make sure that you optimize your profile. You kind of want to think of it as like a little mini Google profile. So you want to have the name of your business, obviously, and then put some keywords in there for what you do. So that could be something like Austin wedding photographer or Texas lifestyle photographer, something like that. So you want to make sure that the name on your profile is optimized. And the same thing with your bio or your about section in your profile. So start there. And then next, you want to make sure that you've gone in and claimed your actual website on your profile. This is what allows you to unlock the analytics and see how your Pinterest is actually working for you. So you can see how many people are going to your site and all those good things. So after you've optimized your profile, claim your website. And then next, I like to suggest starting out with just creating 5 boards. Kind of think of them as boards that you'll be able to pin to often. So not too niche, but also not too broad. The last thing you want to do is have a bunch of boards that sit there empty and you don't have anything to pin to them. So instead of getting overwhelmed, I suggest to start with 5 kind of as a framework, and then you can start adding pins to those from there.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Let me ask you something. How many hours have you spent in your business stressing over social media, fighting with an algorithm, trying to keep up with the latest trends, and just posting for the sake of posting, only to feel like you're spinning your wheels and nobody's even paying attention? I've been there, and let me tell you, it is the worst. But I have a fun little secret for you. Did you know that you don't actually need social media to keep your calendar full? Now, I know that goes against everything all of the other quote unquote experts are telling you to do in your business, but I am living proof that you do not need social media to grow your photography business. I have been successfully staying booked solid in my photography business for the last 8 years with very minimal social media use. And I am excited to show you exactly what I've been doing inside of a private podcast series. The 7-day booking blueprint is 8 power-packed episodes that you can binge all at once or listen to at your own pace. Each episode is actionable and designed to help you book more clients without relying on social media. If you're hearing this ad right now, that means that you are a fan of the Girl Means Business podcast. Thank you, by the way. But if you've ever found yourself saying, man, I wish I could just dive even deeper. I wish I could have a one-on-one sit down with Kendra and really pick her brain about all the things that she's doing in her business, then this podcast series is going to give you everything you've been hoping for. It is so packed with so much information that you are going to walk away feeling like you have the exact roadmap you need to grow your photography business. So if you're ready to hop off that social media hamster wheel and actually start seeing results in your business and start filling up your calendar, head down to the show notes and grab the link so that you can start listening right away. Okay, so let me kind of go through some of that and break down some questions we might have. So let's start with the bio piece. So if this is something that I've been using personally, do I need to create a different account for my business, or do I just turn my personal one into a business account?
I would definitely create a new business account just to keep it clean. Because a lot of times if you have a bunch of personal stuff on there, it can confuse the Pinterest platform.
Okay. So I've started something new. I've optimized my bio. I am going in and I've attached my website, like you said, so it kind of knows where to pull, what to pull, all that things. Let's talk about the boards. So you mentioned starting with 5 boards. So boards are just like collections of pens that are along the same theme, correct?
Right.
Okay. So should those boards be like, let's say I do family photos and I do newborns and I do high school seniors. Like what should they be grouped by like the genres that I do? Should it be more broad than that? Like give me some examples maybe of some boards you would create for a photographer.
Yeah, I feel like those boards you mentioned are good because they kind of group the things generally together. Like you would have your newborn section, your um, senior section, and the other one that you mentioned. But you could also do more broad, like you could do it by location. You could do it by, you could say something like editorial photography, just to have a bigger base to put the pins onto.
Okay.
But I would say probably by genre would be good. And you can even work in seasons, like if you wanted to do like holiday shoots or things like that, or engagement sessions, things like that. I would just do it by genre for sure.
Oh, that's a good idea. I like the idea of doing by season too, because I think people are, that's a good thing someone's searching for if they're searching for things like fall, family sessions or holiday things like that. I like that. So location wise, that's a question I hear often too, as far as with Pinterest, because Pinterest feels like such a broad audience base. And if you're a local photographer serving like, I'm in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So if I'm serving the Dallas-Fort Worth area, or like, let's say you're down in the Austin area somewhere, how do you then utilize your location? Would you create, like you mentioned, what got me thinking about this is you mentioned location boards. So even doing one that might be for a really popular location that you do photo shoots at, or wedding venues, if you're a wedding photographer, specific wedding venues. Does that help to narrow down the audience that your profile appeals to and your pins appeal to, so that you're not getting someone in California that's now viewing your content but may never actually be someone that books with you? Are there other ways you can kind of utilize your location as well?
I wouldn't say it narrows it down completely. I mean, you're always going to have users from all over that find you. But if someone is going in there and searching for your town and your services, then you'll definitely pop up. So if you put in like Dallas Fort Worth photographer into your caption or your description of the pin as part of the keywords, and that's something that they're searching for, then you'll definitely pop up. So I would say it narrows it a little bit just based on what the users are searching for, but you're still going to get those people from all over just because of the way the platform is.
Yeah. And that happens. I mean, it's the same thing with Instagram and things like that. You can't really control who sees your content and where they're located. But I just had not really thought about, until you were mentioning the boards, like the idea of kind of using that as a way to create a more location specific way of identifying, that this is where you are located, or these are the areas that you serve, and that kind of stuff. So that was interesting.
It works really well like for wedding photographers, specifically with venues. If they want to work at a certain venue more, and putting that as the name of a board and into their pin captions, that helps too.
Yeah. Okay, so diving into the boards for just a second. So you mentioned like you create the boards, obviously, which are the collections that you're going to pin stuff to. Are you only pinning your own content into those boards, or are you then pinning like other content that relates to that as well from other users?
So I only use my clients' actual content.
Okay.
There's been some back and forth the past several years where if you pin third-party pins to those boards, it's supposed to help them pop up better, but I don't do that. It didn't really make that much of a difference just from my experience. So I just use their actual content.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's kind of dive into some like mistakes. I know I hate to go negative, but what are some of the things, like, you kind of mentioned there's been debate about like, do you pin other people's things in your boards, this and that. I know that anytime you have, whether it's social media or SEO or blogging or Pinterest or whatever you're using in your business, there's always going to be someone says to do this and someone else says to do this. So you kind of take it with a grain of salt. But what are some of the common mistakes that you see, not even specific photographers, but just in general? Like, what are some of the things that maybe are like happening, or they're being taught one way, it really doesn't work that way, that we can kind of myth bust, I guess you could say here?
I would say a lot of people, they have their Instagram auto connected to their Pinterest, which that doesn't, everything that you create on Instagram is specifically for that platform, and it's not going to help you at all just auto posting that to Pinterest. For one, it doesn't go to specific boards. You don't have the keywords And a lot of times it doesn't link straight back to your website. So if you have your Instagram auto posting to your Pinterest, I would just take that out. That's a common mistake I see a lot of people doing. So for sure, take that off. Another thing I see a lot of people do is just not use keywords at all. Yes, it's a visual search engine, but if you don't have the keywords in there, that's not helping your content surface to anybody. So making sure you use those keywords for sure. And then we kind of touched on this earlier about having a personal versus a business Pinterest account. When you have your business account, you want to make sure that you're keeping it strictly business. If you have a bunch of random things from personal things that you're wanting to go and do and lifestyle things, that kind of confuses the platform. So I would just keep it focused on what your goals are as far as your business goes. One other thing that I have seen is people will get on there for just a little bit. They'll pin a bunch of pins all at once, and then they get overwhelmed, and then they stop, and then they don't get back on it for like a year.
Raising my hand because I've been there.
So it's all about consistency, and if you're not consistent on there, just like anything else, you're not going to get great results. So
yeah.
Yep.
So let's talk about the consistency piece, because I know a lot of times with photographers and anyone who's started a business, and you may have felt this when you were doing your like the floral design businesses, you're like, I got in this to do this one thing, which is to be creative and make this thing. And now I'm being told I have to spend all my time creating content and pinning pins now and putting stuff on Instagram and creating videos and behind the scenes. And it just feels like it's a lot.
Yeah.
And, you know, I preach a lot on here about like simplifying and really focusing on certain things that are going to get you the maximum results. And I do believe that Pinterest is one of those. But how often should someone actually be creating pins and pinning things to their board so that this doesn't become a second job that they're then having to do, but they still have that consistency piece to keep them relevant and active?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Okay, friend, it's time for a little real talk. If you've been listening to this show for a while, you know that I only recommend tools that I genuinely use and love. And at the top of that list is Flowdesk. It's one of those tools that I cannot run my business without. If you took it away today, I would be so upset. It is how I create a marketing plan that works seamlessly in the background of my business, allowing me to create beautiful on-brand emails without spending hours wrestling with templates or code. It just works, and it works simply and easily over and over in my business without question. It actually makes email marketing kind of fun. Over the years, I have promoted one of my favorite features of Flowdesk, which is their unlimited pricing, which meant you paid one flat fee no matter how many subscribers you had on your list. But here's the thing. As businesses grow and evolve, Flowdesk being one of them, things change. And Flowdesk is officially saying goodbye to their unlimited plan, which means right now is your last chance to lock in unlimited emails and subscribers for the life of your subscription. Once it's gone, it's gone. So if you've been thinking about trying Flowdesk, right now is the time to sign up. All you have to do is head down to the show notes and grab my referral link, which also gives you 50% off your first year. So it's pretty much a win-win. This will lock in your unlimited plan for the life of your membership, which means that you will never have to pay anything more than what you see now. So grab that link, get signed up, and start saving for the life of your membership. I promise you won't regret it.
So I would suggest carving out time in your schedule to sit down maybe for half a day, just depending on how long it takes you. Sit down, think about what you want to pin, look through your galleries, and start scheduling out some pins. So you don't have to get on there every day to post a pin. You can schedule directly within Pinterest, which is included. It's free. Or you can use different platforms like Tailwind to schedule to your account. So you can get in there, schedule your pins out for the month. I usually like to do, the month or just a few weeks at a time. And I do at least one pin per day. So it kind of just depends on the package that the client has, if they're wanting more than one pin per day or not. But at a minimum, I would do one per day if possible.
Okay. And do you recommend like just using scheduling tools or just doing it straight inside of Pinterest? Or does it matter?
I think it just depends on your preference. Like for a lot of my clients who are florists, for example, it helps me to get a visual within Tailwind to see how their feed is going to look over the month, just to kind of make sure that it looks cohesive. But if you don't really want to pay for a third party, you can definitely just use what's within Pinterest.
Yeah.
Obviously Tailwind has some other capabilities that help you schedule easier, like you can drag and drop pins to different dates and stuff like that easier. But it really just comes down to what your preference is. Either one works fine.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about for a quick second the analytics piece of this. And I actually, while you were talking, I was pulling up the one you sent me of my own account just a little while ago or the other day to kind of show some of the results that I've seen. And I'll share those in a second. But let's talk a little bit about like what are some of the things that users should look for. So if a photographer has said, okay, I'm going to create my Pinterest account, I am committing to being consistent, I'm going to post. Well, let's start with this question. I'm going to kind of back up for a second. So they've started their account, they're posting consistently. How quickly should they expect to start seeing something resulting from this? Because again, with social media, everyone thinks that everything has to be instant. And this is not an instant platform. So give us a little bit, and I know you can't say like, oh, you have to wait this many months, or there's no like set time, but just in kind of give a generalized like what to expect when you're starting on Pinterest with results.
So I would say give it at least 4 to 6 months, which I know sounds like a long time. But at the end of the day, what you're doing on Pinterest is going to last way longer than what you do on any other platform like this. So I would say at least 4 to 6 months. Just be patient with it. Know that what you're pinning is going to compound over time and keep working for you. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I don't know if you know the answer to this off the top of your head, but like how many months have I been working with you? Do you know? Has it been?
I think it's been 7.
Okay, I was like, well, I almost said 6 or 7. And I was like, oh God, my kids have trained me not to say 6, 7. So, and so I pulled up while you were talking a second ago, I pulled up because you send me a monthly report each month with my analytics and my top pins and those things. This one might have actually been from, it may not be the most recent one you sent me. I think it's the one right before that. But for example, let's see, outbound clicks. So the number of clicks that from my pins to my website were up 259% from the month before. And I think the number is 122 outbound clicks, which if I'm thinking about just that number alone compared to Instagram, for example. So that means 122 people clicked something in Pinterest that took them to my website, whether it was a blog post or a podcast episode or whatever it was that you were pinning in there. And they're now driving traffic to my website. They're now engaging with my content. They've seen my business name. They've seen my offers, things like that. They may have stayed and browsed my website. I don't have that information in front of me, but it's 122 eyes on my website, essentially.
Right.
If I were to post, let's say it was a blog post. If I were to post that same blog post on Instagram, it might get 2 clicks, maybe on a good day. So, and then within 24 hours, it's buried and gone. Right. And so that number alone, I feel like is huge. Another one I was going to look at was, let's see. Okay, so saves, the number of time your pins were saved to users' boards. That one was also up 246%. There were 38 saves that month. Impressions, the number of times my pins were seen by someone on the platform was up 376%. It was 10.2 thousand. So was that 10,200, like that? That's a lot. I mean, that I've never had, I think I've maybe had one Instagram reel had reached 10,000 viewers. And that was back in like the peak Instagram reel days when everybody could get 10,000 views. Yeah. So in 2025, to have anything in your business that gets 10,000 views and, with minimal effort, really, I mean, obviously on my part, 'cause I'm having you do it, but even minimal, like that's impressive. And so just can you share a little bit about, and I know I didn't ask you this ahead of time, but a little bit about maybe even like what strategies you've used within my own account or what things you've seen that have worked well that other photographers might be able to kind of take and utilize?
Yeah, so really with your account, it was kind of a matter of trial and error to figure out what was working and what was resonating with your audience. I would say it was just a mixture of trying different templates as far as what the layouts looked like for your graphics, trying different keywords. I also went through and archived a bunch of your boards and hid some of your boards. I don't know if you knew that.
I don't think I did, but that's good.
Yeah, did that just to kind of clean things up a little bit. I changed your profile picture, your cover image, updated your about section and your profile name and things like that. But other than that, it was just testing out, different color schemes, different fonts, all of that to figure out what was resonating the most with them, and then just doing more of that.
Yeah. And like going through, I was kept scrolling through the form you sent me and like the top performing pens for that month that were new pens. Obviously mine is, it's a little more education based because it has the podcast and it has my lead magnets and it has my, the Girl Means Business blogs, but you've also been sharing some of my photography stuff as well. And one of the top pens on there was a photo shoot I did for a friend of mine's 40th birthday celebration.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nothing crazy. It's literally just like a four collage image with the banner across the middle that says 40th birthday celebration, and it's her holding the 40s balloons and things like that. But it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Like we're not asking people to go out there and like do anything. And this is something that if you're already blogging your sessions, you're probably already creating these types of graphics. Just put them over on Pinterest.
Yep.
So, I wanted to kind of share that just to let people know like that these are not, I mean, we have not been working together super long. I mean, less than a year, and I'm already seeing results. I already reached out to you that one time, I remember, and I was like, have you been pinning my podcast episodes? Because I had like these huge spikes in my podcast downloads. And I do think a big part of that was traffic coming from Pinterest because I really haven't been sharing it much anywhere else other than like the normal outlets. My email list has grown because people are clicking on and downloading the lead magnets. Like I'm seeing the growth. And so I just wanted to say like to anyone listening that's thinking like, well, this is only going to work if I like spend 6 hours a week doing it. That's not the case. Like it even, and again, I know I hire you to do it because I have a million other things that I do, but whether it's you hiring it out to somebody else or you taking the time to do it, I personally believe, and just from the results I've seen from doing this with you, that it can be way more beneficial in the long run to your business than the instant gratification, quick dopamine hit of posting something to Instagram. And I'm not saying you can't do both, but if you have to choose where to spend your time, I feel like this is the better option in my opinion.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And just from the clients that I work with, looking at their website traffic and all of that, like I said, most of them are getting at least 20 times more traffic from Pinterest than they are from Instagram. Instagram's great to have, for interacting with your clients and things like that. But as far as getting actual business, I would say Pinterest is the way to go for sure.
Yeah. So before we kind of wrap up, the last question I was going to ask was, if someone was listening to this and they were like, okay, I've heard what I need to hear. I'm ready to get going. But, and I know you kind of gave a checklist of all these things to do. What is something they can do right now today? They finish listening to this episode. What should they go do very first thing to get started with a Pinterest account?
So if they don't have a business Pinterest account, obviously go set one up. It's free, super easy to set up. If you do already have a Pinterest account and it's kind of a mess, I would maybe carve out a little bit of time just to go through your boards and see what's relevant. Look at the names of the boards. And, a lot of times photographers will put like John and Tracy wedding, which is great, but that's not something people are searching for. So I would go through and rename your boards for things that people are actually searching for on the platform. And then you can even look at the analytics on the actual pins. And if they're not getting any impressions, if that board has a lot of pins that don't have impressions or engagement, feel free to just archive it. if you don't want that content on there anymore. So I would just, if you have an account, go through and kind of clean up your boards a little bit.
Nice. Awesome. And then do you offer that as like a one-off service at all for people if they just want someone to help kind of clean everything up and or set it up for them? Or is it all in one like you?
I used to offer audits, but I stopped doing that because I kind of just roll it into what I do whenever I start working with my clients. So I would say it's just included with what I do.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So you've given us so much knowledge, and I feel like, my goal here is always to get people to take action. So obviously you've given them things they can do to take action. So I appreciate that. And just all the tips you've shared. How can people, if they want to either learn more about working with you or what you offer, or even maybe just come follow you or follow your Pinterest your account or your social media accounts, how can they find you?
I would say the best way to explore more about what I do is just go to my website. You can look at my services page, and I have each service broken out onto a page with specifics of what's included, with frequently asked questions and things like that. And then once you've kind of decided on what you're interested in, you can fill out an inquiry form, and then you can also book a call with me. The call is super low pressure. I just want to get to know you, get to know what your business goals are, and kind of tailor what I offer to you as a service individually, because everyone's different. So I would say start with my website. If you want to follow me on social media, that's fine. I'm not the best about posting on Instagram just because I'm introverted and it's hard for me. Also with Pinterest, I am so busy helping other clients with their accounts that often takes the back burner for me. I hate to say it.
It happens to the best of us. I get
it. Yep.
Awesome. Well, and I will have those links down in the show notes for anybody that wants to go and check out your website and your services and what all you offer. And again, thank you so much for your time. And I appreciate all of your wisdom and your tips and your advice. And I would love to have you back on in the future, and we can maybe even do like a deeper dive or answer some listener questions that they might have for you. But thank you so much for being here and for your time.
Thank you.
I want to give another quick thank you to Kelli for her time and all of the knowledge that she shared. If you would like to learn more about Kelli, what she offers, her services, or how you can work with her, or you just want to go follow her on social for all of her Pinterest tips, you can find all that information down in the show notes. I hope this gets you excited to start thinking about ways that you can market your business outside of social media while still staying relevant and keeping your content fresh and in front of your ideal clients' eyes. That's going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week, and I will see you back here next week, same time, same place.